So despite having a substantial display, a large influx of gameplay at their E3 2017 conference, Sony decided to hold back. They decided to not drop the hammer this year, all because they feel very confident in their position of power to not compromise and go big. This is going to be an interesting one. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. This is Renegade Operative here, and this is my final E3 2017 review. And we are talking solely about the Sony press conference for E3 2017. And man, I recently saw an article, an interview from Push Square, and Sony definitely did hold back. They did not drop the hammer. They're waiting for stuff like Tokyo Game Show probably, or PlayStation Experience, which is a shame. You can look at this decision in two ways. You can see it as Sony is being generous to the people that are going to be attending PlayStation Experience 2017, and you can see it as a giant disappointment because Sony decided to hold off their IPs, some of their existing IPs and some of their newer IPs, for future shows at future dates instead of showing it at E3, the biggest gaming convention of all time. I'm sorry, E3 is like the Super Bowl compared to a backwater stadium that is PlayStation Experience. I understand people enjoy PlayStation Experience, but now is not the time to say, well, we're gonna take these games away at the biggest show floor for a little house event sometime later in the year. That makes no sense to me. That makes zero sense. At first, I thought people were just being entitled. I thought people were seriously being babies. Now it's like, yeah, they kind of are justified in the response. Where's The Last of Us Part 2? Where is Sucker Punch's new IP? Where are the new IPs? They're not here because we have to wait. But again, they did show off some games, which I can appreciate. They showed off some goddamn long gameplay presentations, which I can thoroughly appreciate. Let's get right into the mix and let's talk about these games at the presentation floor for Sony's E3 conference. So first thing is first, we have Uncharted Lost Legacy. We kind of already saw this game last year, so it's going to be a reoccurring theme of a lot of games that we saw last year, just with new trailers and new gameplay presentations. The story presentation of Uncharted Lost Legacy didn't leave much to be desired. All you know is that Chloe Fraser and Nadine Ross is working together in this DLC, and they are hunting for the Tusk of Ganesh. And basically, it's going to be another run-of-the-mill adventure with these two characters. Drake is out of the picture, and I saw some gameplay of Uncharted Lost Legacy. It looks pretty much like your standard Uncharted 4 affair for standalone DLC, which is great. I loved Uncharted 4. I love the Uncharted franchise. I cannot wait to pick this game up in August. Next up, we have another standalone DLC announcement, and that is Horizon Zero Dawn, The Frozen Wilds. Now, the trailer didn't leave much to interpretation. It was short. It was a overglorified teaser trailer at best. They didn't show much. However, the possibilities are endless. They could open up new areas, maybe put in new armors, new weapons, new perks, plus new robots to control, to fight, and new bosses and new story elements. That's what I'm expecting this DLC to accomplish. The Frozen Wilds does not have a date as far as I know, unless it's coming out sometime next year or later in the year. I might have missed that little tidbit, but if I did, I'm really looking forward to it. I enjoyed Horizon Zero Dawn for what it was. It's not 100% pixel perfect, but the game is overall enjoyable to me. Next, we have Days Gone. This is a new IP done by Sony Ben, the creators behind the one, the only Siphon Filter. When it comes to Days Gone, I will be honest, I was a heavy skeptic when they first showed it because it's like we have the open world genre blending in with the zombie apocalyptic theme, and it is overdone. It's oversaturated, especially when it comes to gaming. So when it's another open world zombie apocalyptic theme, I'm like, oh man, I wish they would do something else. I'm so over this style. Why not make a new Siphon Filter? Because the spy genre is lacking, in my opinion. I think there needs to be a really good modern spy game. However, Days Gone looks nice. I will admit, it looks very nice. I like the hordes of zombies that can come around. You can lure people to get attacked by the horde. You can do these crazy like kills, man. When he's like jabbing the guy in the stomach, shanking the shit out of him, and he takes this rope to the other guy and he chokes him out. That was pretty intense and exhilarating at the same time. Now, I heard some mechanics about this game, like it's open world, but your bike can run out of gas. I mean, I guess that increases the survival element. I don't know how I feel about it though. I hope that for the most part, this game is very intense and very fun in its gameplay mechanics, and it doesn't feel like it's something shoehorned in for the sake of just being there for survival elements, but annoying at the same time. I don't want all these elements to bog down the gameplay and then make the game just not fun. I like a challenge, I really do, but I just don't want to sit there and micromanage a bike. You know what I mean? I want it to feel fun and dynamic at the same time, and I hope this game really fulfills that promise. We got fucking zombified bears, man. It's guaranteed to be a thrilling experience, hopefully. Next, let's move on to our next announcement, Shadow of the Colossus being remade for the PS4. I have to say, hats off to Bluepoint Games. They deserve the recognition that they really need credit on. I feel as though Bluepoint Games is vastly underrated when it comes to their remasters. A lot of people don't give them the credit. They did an amazing job on Uncharted Nathan Drake Collection. They really made Metal Gear Solid 3 HD run so amazingly. And I think Bluepoint really needs that recognition. And I think Sony should buy them. Straight up, Sony should buy that studio, acquire them, and make more remake-oriented titles like this. Bluepoint Games, you are great. And I like to say that Shadow of the Colossus is a big game of my childhood. I played it extensively. I will be getting this remake. I really love the fact that they are going to approach this title in particular, because Shadow of the Colossus, while that game is arguably a masterpiece, the game has issues and it's not perfect. And one of the problems I had with Shadow of the Colossus, even on the PS3 port that Bluepoint Games did, there were problems that consisted with the controls. There were problems with the frame rate, with the large Colossus monsters on screen, and the frame rate tanks significantly. I understand why back then, but now it's like maybe they could do a solid and fix all those problems by putting this remake on the PS4 and ironing out all these issues and making the perfect iteration of Shadow of the Colossus. I can't wait. I really would have liked a sequel over this, but this is not bad news actually. I think it opens a path of more remake-oriented games in the future if Sony decides to acquire or work with Bluepoint Games even more with constant collaboration. Next we have Capcom. That's right, the On This DLC Masters, the company that is the living embodiment of falling from grace. Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. Those faces looks like hot garbage. The game in general looks like a back alley alien abortion being performed with a samurai sword. Fuck this game. I will not be buying it. Next up we have Monster Hunter World. This is another Capcom title. I'm kind of iffy, but this one looks leagues better than MVCI. The game has some interesting mechanics with the creatures, the environment, and the combat. Certainly, it might be one to look after, but I'm waiting to see how it goes because I am forever skeptical about Capcom practices. I will wait and see what happens. Hopefully, it goes over well, but I'm not sure what to expect. Call of Duty World War II. I mean, going back to roots, going back to World War II, it's interesting, but I'm just not excited. I am so over Call of Duty. I really am. I have nothing else to say about it, and that's how I feel. Next, we are moving on to the downer of the show, and that is unfortunately the VR segment. So I'm gonna run down a list here. We have Skyrim on VR. We have a military shooter called Bravo Team. We have Star Child. We have the Impatient, I guess. There's an N there, not an M. That's weird. Final Fantasy 15 has a fishing game called Monster of the Deep. And then we have Mass or Moss. I think it's called Moss with the little mouse on the screen. Yeah, Moss. Overall, VR doesn't impress me. You know what I think VR is? It's a high price gimmick. It's not getting the support that people want VR to have, and that really shows. It's fucking expensive, and there's not a lot of games. And if there is games, probably like 55% of them are shovelware, and no one's buying it. So yeah, that's what I think about VR. VR is pointless to me. Next, we're talking about Detroit Become Human. They showed off a little new snippet. The game looks like it could be a fun rental at best. It's David Cage. So yeah, David Cage likes everything to be cinematic and artistic. And sometimes he comes off as a pompous prick. But I liked Heavy Rain. I didn't play Beyond, but I liked Heavy Rain. So maybe I'll rent the game just like I did Until Dawn and play it from there. Overall, it's David Cage. So I'm expecting Quick Time Event City. Destiny 2. It's my destiny to not give a fuck. I don't care about Destiny. Alrighty, so God of War. This is the new iteration in the series that goes in a bold new direction. It's not just mindless button mashing gore anymore. They're trying to establish Kratos as this father figure. I was skeptical because the gameplay for God of War is fine. I totally do not mind the gameplay of God of War. I like it being fast and fluid, and I thought going in this third person direction would slow things down, would make things less methodical. I was mistaken here. The combat in the new God of War looks very interesting. I like the whole shield dynamic as well. Could create some interesting combos. My only gripe is that the enemies in the background attacking and fighting Kratos, they aren't doing much. They are just sort of standing there being background scenery as their friends get the ever-living shit beat out of them. I hope that the enemy AI starts to get a lot more aggressive as you progress through the new God of War. They also showed off some pretty big and monstrous creatures that want to help Kratos, which I found fucking weird. It was really fucking weird. This big monster, this big giant Hydra creature talking to Kratos, saying he wants to help him. It just made me want to kill it even more. I don't know why. I'm just I'm just sadistic. It made me want to kill the thing. But the new God of War is coming out next year. I'm hyped. I can't wait. Let's go. Last but not least, Sony took another jab at Microsoft saying that they are going to close off with a true exclusive, and that is Spider-Man on the PS4. Spider-Man looks fantastic. There's nothing bad I can say about it. I thoroughly enjoyed the gameplay. It reminded everyone a lot of the Arkham franchise with the combat. The fact that there's slow-mo, gadgets, all that good stuff. You can free flow multiple enemies. And at the end of the day, I honestly enjoyed it. There's environmentals, so you can use that to fight other enemies while still in the combat, which I thoroughly appreciate. Spider-Man is super fluid and agile, and it feels like when you're engaging someone in combat with Spider-Man, he fights like you would expect. He's doing backflips, he's doing web balls, he's sticking people to walls, you know? He's like throwing people in the air, he's doing combos. Oh man, that game looks phenomenal. There's a big abundance of QuickTime events, which I don't mind. I mean, it's a AAA exclusive, so QuickTime events, they come with the territory now. At least it looks very entertaining. Spider-Man can do differing QuickTime events like moving the reticule to grab a piece of helicopter and attach it to one of the walls on a building so civilians won't get killed. And it seems like everything is dynamic when there's a cutscene going on, so you never keep your hands off the controller. I also like the environmental destruction. It looks very riveting in this engine. It's like they rubbed this engine with the bath salts of fucking the greatest graphics known to man. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. This engine looks incredible. I also hope they have combat challenges. The swinging also looks like Spider-Man 2, but with a little amazing Spider-Man with the web points. So yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to this one. One of the enemies was Mr. Negative, and he's prominent in the comics if you don't know who he is. They also tease Miles Morales, so it makes me wonder, will Miles be a playable character considering that he is Spider-Man after Peter Parker dies. Pete dies in the comics, and this Spider-Man in particular, Peter Parker, in the game at least, he is significantly older, so maybe it could create a window. We'll see. Hopefully they have other costumes as well, because Spider-Man is pretty much known for having an overabundance of outfits. At the end of the day, this E3 conference for Sony is pretty much them playing it safe. They played it safe. They know they have a lot of releases. They basically added on to that. They showed off some new things, but it didn't feel like it was enough. I think this conference should have been significantly longer because it was only an hour at best. I think compared to last year, Sony's E3 was better. It was. They showed off new stuff. They had a nice mix and match of new IPs and older ones. This conference was like, we know we're top dog, we know we're winning, we're cocky, so we're going to hold back until another conference. We're going to take games away, and I feel as though if that is the case, that was a huge detriment. It feels like something was missing out of Sony's conference, like the hard-hitting announcements were gone, but the gameplay presentations were on point, and I think that is the format of how these studios should make presentations for E3. Shouldn't be a lot of figureheads talking, should be more games being played front and center on show floor. For that, I give this conference a fair C+.